What is going on, everybody? Welcome to a Wednesday afternoon edition of Coming Off the Bench. So glad to be here with you guys. Today, we've got a busy, jam packed show for you today. Shedeur Sanders officially gets the starting role for the Raiders game on Sunday. We're also going to be diving into the media reaction to Shedeur Sanders and just how crazy it has been on both sides, both the pro Shedeur Sanders side and what seemingly looks like an anti Shedeur Sanders side. We're going to be diving deep into just how crazy the media has taken Shedeur Sanders and the whole Shedeur Sanders saga of the Cleveland Browns. We're also going to be diving into a very important article from Jason Lloyd over at The Athletic, who finally gave some answers regarding to the Browns' approach to Shedeur Sanders and how they are approaching Shedeur Sanders playing this season. We finally have maybe some answers to some of the most pertinent questions that many people, including myself, have been asking for the majority of the season, which is, why isn't Shedeur Sanders been playing? And also, what does this mean for the Browns organizationally going forward? We'll get all into that later on. But first of all, if you guys are watching this on YouTube, make sure you guys hit the like button, subscribe if you're new. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. I appreciate all your guys' support. You guys have been absolutely killing it lately in terms of the support on the channel and across my other social media platforms, especially TikTok. You guys have been absolutely outstanding. So I cannot thank you guys enough for all of your support. And without further ado, let's get into the first segment of the day, which is Shedeur Sanders has finally been given the opportunity to start a football game for the Cleveland Browns. Kevin Stefanski came out here earlier today during one of his press conferences, and he officially decided to give Shedeur Sanders the rep.
Given down. So that's where we're getting started. Shedeur's going to start at quarterback. Dylan is still in the concussion protocol. He is improving. But obviously we got to put a plan together for all of our players, all of our offense, our defense, our special teams, plan of attack, and give our guys a chance given down.
Okay, so straight from the horse's mouth there, Shedeur Sanders is getting the starting job for the Cleveland Browns against the Las Vegas Raiders. And again, if you want to have success in this league, the coach has to have a game plan for Shedeur Sanders. We all know the whole story this entire season has been Shedeur Sanders has never gotten any reps with the ones throughout the entire season. Okay, this has been the whole crux of the argument for the pro Shedeur side, who have been saying that Shedeur Sanders has been unfairly treated because he hasn't had any first team reps. Well, now Shedeur Sanders is going to have a full week of practice, a full week of reps with the ones, and the Browns are going to have to devise a game plan surrounding Shedeur Sanders' strength, and they're going to have to prepare him for Sunday against the Raiders. And then again, the Raiders are not necessarily a good team. They're not. They're not a good team at all. They are pretty much, I think they are a lower scoring team than the Cleveland Browns. Somehow, some way, that's possible. They're a lower scoring team than the Browns. This defense for the Raiders has gotten better. It has improved. They are 11th in the league in terms of rushing defense. So running the football is going to be a challenge. So that means a lot more is going to be on Shedeur Sanders' plate, perhaps, going into Sunday against the Raiders if the Browns cannot get the running game going. And we saw last week how, the Browns had a difficult time adjusting to Shedeur Sanders and the way Shedeur Sanders played football. It seemed like they were more used to Dylan Gabriel's approach of getting the football out quick, while Shedeur Sanders stayed in the pocket longer, held onto the football longer, had to take in what the defense was giving him and just seeing what he could do in terms of coverages. But this is going to be an opportunity for Shedeur Sanders to finally have a week of preparation with the ones watch film, study, practice, have a game plan devised around Shedeur Sanders by the coaching staff, by Tommy Rees and Kevin Stefanski, and finally maybe the whole narratives that can be made throughout the entire year about Shedeur Sanders and about the Cleveland Browns and about how the Browns have been trying to sabotage Shedeur Sanders by not giving him reps and all this other stuff. Well, now it's Shedeur's opportunity right now to prove everybody wrong, prove Kevin Stefanski and Tommy Rees and the Browns wrong, and to say, give me a shot for them for another game. Because right now we already know, Kevin Stefanski said it out loud. He prefers Dillon Gabriel over Shedeur Sanders. And I said this before, you should not be surprised that Kevin Stefanski, would rather have Dillon Gabriel over Shedeur Sanders, because Kevin Stefanski is relying on Dillon Gabriel working out so that his career works out, so that Kevin Stefanski's job security is still intact, right? So Shedeur Sanders has all the opportunities this week in the world to try and, take what is given to him right now, because everything is going to be given to him, and make sure that, he's comfortable, make sure that, the Browns have a steady game plan around him so that he can come out here on Sunday against the Raiders and look pretty decent. This is the plan. It should be the plan. I think that the Browns, all the pressure to me is on the Browns coaching staff right now, because a lot of people have been saying, well, how is Shedeur going to handle the pressure of, starting his first NFL game? And yes, for sure, there's going to be some pressure on Shedeur Sanders starting his first NFL game. That's obvious, right? I mean, you'd be insane to not be nervous to start your first NFL game. But to me, all of the pressure in the world is on Stefanski and Tommy Rees, because they're going to have to come up with a game plan for a guy who they believed, and which we'll get into later on in the show. You guys are going to be interested to hear this. They believed wasn't going to play this year. So I don't know if they ever had a game plan devised for Shedeur Sanders, because you even heard Kevin Stefanski in the press conference there. He said they're going to have to devise a game plan around Shedeur's strengths. So again, I'm not saying that, Stefanski and Rees are unprepared for Shedeur Sanders, but I don't think they've done as much due diligence of, working on a game plan for Shedeur Sanders as maybe a Dillon Gabriel or especially a Joe Flacco. I think maybe, the Browns are a little bit underprepared for Shedeur Sanders playing football. And again, we'll get into that later on with Jason Lloyd's article detailing the inner workings around the Shedeur Sanders playing versus not playing argument. But yeah, I mean, again, this is a perfect opportunity for Shedeur to come out here and play his brand of football, right? The whole thing about Shedeur is he's deadly accurate. He can make plays for other guys. He doesn't try to turn the football over that much. But the only thing about him is that he takes a lot of sacks. And you're going to go up against a guy like Max Crosby. I'm going to say Mason Crosby. Max Crosby on the other end, who's one of the best defensive ends in the league, going up against this Browns offensive line. It's going to be a tough challenge for Shedeur. And again, this is why he has a full week of practice, a full week of reps with the ones. And he's going to, have to improve on last week or on Sunday with that second half of football, which was not good. Even Shedeur himself said not good. It was not good. So all the people in my chat who were saying that Shedeur Sanders was great, even Shedeur Sanders said he wasn't great. So again, he has a lot to improve upon from what we saw during the second half of the Ravens game. There's a lot to improve upon. And this week he's got a full week of reps with the ones to work out some of the chemistry kinks with, Jerry Jeudy, Cedric Tillman, Njoku, Fannin. He's going to be able to work out those chemistry issues that, maybe, were persistent in the game last Sunday. But he's going to have a week to work on that. He's going to have a week to get everybody, on the offensive line. Wyatt Teller said, I think I only heard Shedeur's cadence in the huddle maybe 2 or 3 times all year. So the offensive line weren't even prepared for Shedeur Sanders playing. They haven't even heard the guy, they haven't even heard his cadence before. So again, this is like a totally brand. It's like almost like a guy coming off of the street, like Joe Flacco a couple of years ago, like coming off the street. Nobody knows what Joe Flacco or how Joe Flacco is going to work in this offense. Nobody knows his tendencies or anything like that. But it's going to be like that. And again, Shedeur Sanders has all the opportunities in the world this week to make sure that he improves on his struggles from last week and that he's going to make a tough argument and a tough conversation have to happen for Kevin Stefanski, whether he plays, if he plays great on Sunday. That's the caveat. If he plays great on Sunday, he's going to have to try and make an argument happen with Kevin Stefanski to try and keep him in the starting role going forward. So, again, all the pressure is on Kevin and Reese to make sure they have a game plan surrounding Shedeur Sanders. And all Shedeur has to do on Sunday is just go out there and play football, man. Just go out there and play football. Don't overthink it. Okay, the Raiders aren't necessarily the greatest team in the world. You guys have the same record. You're both 2-8. All right, you don't have to go out there and you shouldn't have to go out there and overthink the Raiders. Okay, but just go out there, play football. The Browns, if they come up with a game plan around Shedeur, they'll be just fine. And again, I have all the faith in the world. I think Shedeur Sanders is probably going to be much improved than what we saw on Sunday against the Ravens. I think he's going to be improved. This guy, everything that we've been told coming into the season is that week after week he gets better and better. The more he gets reps and the more he works hard, he studies, all this other stuff. So I have all the faith in the world that Shedeur Sanders is going to look better than what we saw during the second half of the Baltimore Ravens game. But again, he's got to put the work in. He's got to improve on those struggles. And I think that he can do it. And I think the Browns are going to be set up for success coming on Sunday in Vegas against the Raiders. But that's just my opinion on Shedeur Sanders. Again, getting the start officially for the Cleveland Browns. Again, I think he's got a lot of things to work on with, the offense. But I think having a week of, everything being given to him, at his pace, everything, being given to him and focusing on him being the starting quarterback going into Sunday is definitely a positive thing for Shedeur, and I think that it's going to help him have success here on Sunday. Damian McAdams says, what if Shedeur produces an amazing performance? Does Kevin stay with Shedeur, or does he put Gabriel back in when he returns? I think that again, this is why we're going to, later on in the show, I'm going to show you guys the article by Jason Lloyd. I think that, and again, I said this before multiple times since Sunday. I think Kevin Stefanski needs Dillon Gabriel to work out. And again, he's got the injury excuse to go back to Dillon because they didn't pull Dillon out because Dillon got hurt or Dillon was playing bad. They pulled Dillon out because Dillon got hurt. And so now Kevin has the excuse to go back to Dillon because they're going to say, well, Dillon Gabriel was hurt. He was hurt. He wasn't playing bad. We didn't have to, pull him out of the game because he was bad. We pulled him out because he got concussed. So, of course, when he's healthy, we're going to put him back out there because, he needs to be given more reps because he's a rookie quarterback. So that's why I'm saying Shedeur has the opportunity this week to have all the first team reps. They're going to devise a game plan around him. And if he goes out there and listen, Shedeur doesn't even have to necessarily play good, right? Or at least great to really make a tough conversation for Kevin Stefanski. If Shedeur goes out there and completes 62% of his passes and has 225 yards and a touchdown and maybe one interception, I think that's better than what we've seen from Dillon Gabriel so far all season long. So I think even seeing that would be a vast improvement over what we've been seeing from Dillon Gabriel thus far this season. So again, I'm not like everybody who's on the crazy pro Shedeur side who are saying, oh, Shedeur Sanders is going to go off for 70 plus completion, 400 yards, 4 touchdowns, no again. No, you don't have to play. He doesn't have to play that way. He does not have to play that way. All Shedeur has to do is not turn the ball over, not take as many sacks as he did against the Ravens, okay? And if he's able to just complete a vast majority of his passes and then maybe complete 1 or 2 deep balls down the field, to me, that's an improvement over what we've been seeing the last 6 weeks with Dillon Gabriel at the helm. But that's just my opinion. So again, I think I would probably put my money on Dillon Gabriel coming back in after he's cleared from concussion protocol. I've said this multiple times. I think he's going to put him back in because Kevin needs Dillon Gabriel to work out because Kevin wanted Dillon in the draft. So that's why they're going to give every single opportunity in the world that they possibly can to Dillon Gabriel so that he can work out. And again, a lot of people are not going to like that, but that's just the truth. That's the reason why that's the reason why they're going to go back to Dillon Gabriel is because Kevin Stefanski needs Dillon Gabriel to work out. So, and again, we're going to go later on in this show. We're going to be talking about the different, camps that are happening in Berea, it seems like. And you guys are going to want to stay tuned for that. Okay. We can get on to the second segment here in just a second. I just want to get everything here prepared for a second. Okay, so let's talk about the media, shall we? So, if you guys are not aware, the media surrounding Shedeur Sanders is not the best. It's not great at all. It is probably the most toxic conversation I've seen for the Browns probably since Deshaun Watson was first traded to Cleveland. I would say this has probably been the most toxic discussion topic regarding the Cleveland Browns, and that's saying something in the last 4 years. Again, probably since Deshaun Watson got traded here, and definitely since Baker Mayfield was the whole Baker Bro fight after the 2021 season when people were fighting over whether Baker Mayfield should be given another shot and more money after he tore his labrum in 2021. The media has been absolutely insane in both ways, both in the pro Shedeur side and in the anti Shedeur side. And again, I just want to talk about the media because there's some clips I want to show you from the media that are just absolutely insane to me. They're just insane. And again, this has nothing to do with Shedeur Sanders' play on the field, which is the most annoying part. Because to me, for Dillon Gabriel, a lot of people were criticizing Dillon Gabriel because he's 5'9", and including myself. I've said that multiple times that I don't think he's going to be a good quarterback because of his height. That's true, but I've also tried to stick my criticisms with Dillon Gabriel and try and make it all about the on-field product that Dillon Gabriel has been giving the Cleveland Browns. To me, the Shedeur Sanders conversation, both pro and anti-Shedeur in the media, does not revolve around his overall football skill, right? We haven't seen Shedeur Sanders play football since, preseason against the Rams, yet everybody was either saying that Shedeur Sanders cannot play football or Shedeur Sanders is the next Tom Brady, right? And we never saw Shedeur Sanders play meaningful NFL reps or have meaningful NFL reps until what we saw on Sunday against the Ravens. But you still have people who are coming out here and saying that Shedeur Sanders is going to be either the greatest quarterback to ever live or Shedeur Sanders is a horrible quarterback and a horrible human being, right? There's no in between. And it feels like all of the talk surrounding Shedeur Sanders has gotten so unbelievably toxic. And I want to show you guys a couple of things here. This is from ESPN. Rex Ryan a couple of days ago was on Get Up. They were talking about Shedeur Sanders. They were talking about Shedeur Sanders' debut against the Ravens. And again, this has nothing to do with Shedeur Sanders' on-field production. And this, to me, this Rex Ryan clip is like the epitome of the lazy anti-Shedeur Sanders criticism arguments that we've been seeing from some people in the media. Let's take a listen to a minute of what Rex Ryan had to say on the Get Up show regarding Shedeur Sanders.
Shedeur, he's got to get over himself too. Like like he's there by himself on the bench.
At the end of the game.
I've seen it in the 7th game of a World Series when you lose a game or whatever. This is a pillow fight game. Nobody cares.
He cared.
Sit back.
He cared.
Yeah. Did he care? Or are you trying to make it a show and make it about yourself? You got a guy over there that, by the way, is a 2-time MVP. Right there, Lamar Jackson. He was looking for you. He was looking for you right there. Why don't you share a moment with him? All right? All right, share a moment with Lamar. He's looking all over for you. Then get in there with your teammates. These are your teammates. All right? These are your teammates. And talk about, I'm not comfortable losing. You think anybody in that locker room is? They better not be. Okay? But I want to see, is it Shedeur or is it the coach? Who the hell's at fault here? Because there's a disconnect. To me, there's 100% a disconnect. Now, look, I want to see.
Like, again, it just, the laziest arguments. Again, nothing on the field. It's nothing on the field. No criticism on the field regarding Shedeur Sanders. Now, again, I haven't seen the full clip. I haven't seen the full segment of the Get Up show regarding the Shedeur Sanders debut from Sunday against the Ravens. But again, the whole criticism boiling down to Shedeur Sanders has been, oh, he's cocky, he's arrogant, he's way too full of himself. And again, we're going to criticize Shedeur Sanders for what? Sitting on the bench after he lost a game that he came into. We're going to criticize Shedeur Sanders for what? Not going onto the field to talk to Lamar Jackson. We don't know if they talked later on. We have no idea. But again, we have all the criticism from Rex Ryan talking about Shedeur Sanders sitting on a bench after he lost his first NFL game that he participated in the second half and didn't play necessarily well. And again, he said in the press conference after the game, I did not play well at all. I'm upset by the way I played. And again, he had all the pressure on him. The fans were booing Dillon Gabriel. They wanted to see Shedeur. Shedeur didn't play to expectations that some people were thinking that he'd play up to. And he struggled. And he was upset. And he sat down on the bench. He sat on the bench. And again, this is what we're devoting media coverage to Shedeur Sanders sitting down on a bench being upset at the way he played. This is what we're criticizing Shedeur Sanders for. Nothing on the field. I'm sure the other people on the panel criticized him for his play on the field, especially like Damian Woody and all those guys. I don't know who else was on that panel. I wasn't really paying attention to the other people because I was just dumbfounded by what Rex Ryan was saying. But again, no criticism for what happened on the field. Nothing. It was just Shedeur Sanders sitting on a bench all by himself, and the preconceived notion that Shedeur Sanders is arrogant and full of himself and just riding with that. It's just the laziest amount of coverage from the media. And again, it goes both ways too. We saw the anti-Shedeur media. Now we're gonna go see the sycophantic pro Shedeur media. And again, Josina Anderson, you guys know her from ESPN, her ESPN days, had absolutely had a meltdown on Twitter the last couple of days because she has been absolutely riding with Shedeur and pretty much has been clowning herself in replies to almost all the tweets on her tweets regarding Shedeur Sanders, basically calling anyone racist for saying, well, I don't know about Shedeur didn't really necessarily play well, and then she calls people racist. But Josina Anderson basically had a meltdown on Twitter, which is nonstop tweeting about Shedeur Sanders and about how it was racism that Shedeur Sanders wasn't getting any reps. Basically, quote tweets Mary Kay Cabot with Kevin Stefanski said, Dylan Gabriel will be back as a starter once he clears the concussion protocol, but acknowledges a lot has to happen. And Josina Anderson responds, exactly, Kevin Stefanski 2-8 is mistaken if he thinks the hashtag non-debut proves anything because it doesn't. Now, to me, that's necessarily not the worst argument that you can make because I said that after the game. The debut, the second half game against the Ravens with Shedeur Sanders not coming in with no reps, necessarily I'm not going to take that much stock into it. That's why I said I'm putting more stock into this game on Sunday against the Raiders. So that one's not as bad. I'll give her that one. But then again, Josina Anderson says, Shedeur Sanders has had 2 catches that should have been caught in the last few plays, but huge credit to Roquan Smith, comes up with a huge play at the end, though I'm sure Wyatt Teller had a legitimate reason to be pissed on this last play. Hashtag Ravens win. And again, I think those 2 passes or 2 catches that she was talking about were those 2 long passes in the back of the end zone to Gage Larvidan, and I think the other one almost should have been picked off. The other one I think was a pass to Harold Fannin, that Harold Fannin drop, but that was like way early on in the drive. Then she also says this one was the most infamous one down here. This one was the most infamous one, and that a lot of people were picking up on Twitter, and she got really upset at a lot of people for this one. And I can't play any of the video because of copyright reasons from the NFL, so I got in trouble with that like a year ago, and I'm not going to get in trouble for that, but Josina Anderson basically said, here was the against all odds 3rd down and 10 completion by Shedeur Sanders under 2 minutes. And this was the one where Shedeur passes to Jerry Jeudy for like a 4-yard gain, and he absolutely makes a great play. Jerry Jeudy makes a great play to get to the 1st down, and there's other photos showing how much room that Jerry Jeudy had to run. It was just insane. But again, I wanted to just show you guys, like, again, you can be a fan of Shedeur Sanders and also be realistic in saying, hey, I would like to wait and see how Shedeur Sanders plays, football. I would like to see how Shedeur Sanders looks on the field before I say Shedeur Sanders is going to be the greatest quarterback of all time, and that everything Shedeur Sanders does on the field is the greatest thing that you've ever seen in your entire life, right? I was joking about that during the game. I said, every time that he handed the ball off to Quinshon Judkins, I said, wow, wasn't that the greatest handoff you've ever seen in your entire life? Like, again, making fun of that stuff. Again, you don't have to be sycophantically supporting Shedeur Sanders. You also do not have to be sycophantically hating Shedeur Sanders, like we saw with Rex Ryan, and sycophantically supporting Shedeur Sanders, like we saw with Josina Anderson and other people, right? And again, my main point of this segment the main point of this is just none of this is most of this is not about what he's done on the field. This is all projection of what they view Shedeur Sanders being as a quarterback in the NFL. This is not meaningful football analysis. And these are just two of the most prominent media analysts of the NFL. Rex Ryan was a former NFL head coach, went to the AFC Championship game multiple times with the New York Jets. Josina Anderson worked at ESPN for how many years? And again, both of these guys on different sides of the Shedeur Sanders conversation are not doing quality football analysis regarding Shedeur Sanders. They are letting their feelings get in the way of actual meaningful analysis of Shedeur Sanders because they're all projecting what they want to see on a Shedeur. Rex Ryan sees a smug, arrogant quarterback, a cocky quarterback that shouldn't really be playing. And Josina Anderson sees the next Tom Brady and that everything that Shedeur Sanders does on the field is great. And then if you criticize anything Shedeur Sanders does, it's because you're racist somehow. And again, the reason why I'm just so sick and tired of this conversation, and I'm so glad that we're finally going to see Shedeur Sanders start a football game on Sunday, is because we're going to finally have meaningful football from Shedeur Sanders that we can actually analyze and critique and actually look at, so that we don't have to deal with these silly narratives from both sides. And Shedeur Sanders himself can actually shut people up once and for all on either side, whether it's the sycophantic pro-Shedeur side or the sycophantic anti-Shedeur side. Shedeur Sanders is going to make one of these arguments obsolete, most likely, by the end of Sunday. And again, this is why I said you don't put anything into what we saw on Sunday night against the Ravens. A lot of people were saying, oh, that was horrible. This is why Dylan Gabriel is better. Or this is why Shedeur Sanders is better, because look at those two throws that he threw at the end zone, right? Again, this is why I said Sunday against the Raiders is going to be the most important thing, because Shedeur Sanders is going to finally make his case and try and end this unbelievably toxic argument conversation, and once and for all, because we're finally going to have something to actually analyze, critique on a football level, on a sports level, and not on a dumb race or arrogance or anything other than just football argument, right? And again, the media, I'm probably the 17th millionth guy to say the media has to do better. But if this is the sports media analysts that we have to deal with, then it's jobs like me and other content creators. Unfortunately, it has to come down to people like us to actually give quality, better football and sports analysis than guys who spent decades or years working at ESPN or Fox Sports. Because again, none of this stuff matters. None of the arguments they make matters, because nothing has to do with the football field. It doesn't. There's all these ulterior arguments going on. This is why Sunday against the Raiders is so much more important, because we're finally going to have something concrete and something football to talk about with Shedeur Sanders. That's why Sunday is so important, and that's why I'm looking forward to Sunday against the Raiders and the Browns game against the Raiders so much. I'm looking forward to it so much. But those are just my 2 cents, guys, on the Shedeur Sanders, the media conversation regarding Shedeur Sanders. I don't know about you guys. I'm just so sick and tired of it. It's just the most annoying thing in the world to me, because nobody is taking it seriously. Nobody is taking a football look at it. Nobody can just say, hey, I'd like to wait and see with Shedeur Sanders. I think he could be pretty good, but, I don't know yet, because we have to wait until he gets some meaningful action. But here are some things I like. Here are some things I think he needs to improve upon. There's none of that. It's either you are just great or you're just horrible, which is just annoying. Dan McAdam again says, I am really excited to see what Shedeur can do with whole week of first team reps. I think he's going to put on a solid performance. This is his chance. I know. That's what I said. I agree with that, Damian. Like I said, he's got his opportunity to prove everybody wrong and to have a whole week of game planning around him. And this is his opportunity to really show everybody that he can be a starting quarterback in this league. And he's going to have to make that argument to Kevin Stefanski. And I think he can do it. He just has to get, his opportunity. Raul Havana says, what about the fake police report that he had a $200,000 Timex stolen? I don't know about fake police report. I mean, they're investigating it. But they took about $200,000 out of his house. They said it was 3 guys that went into his house. I don't even know where he lives. I don't know what city he lives in. But, that's crazy, man. Damon McAdam, I think, says $200,000 Timex. What the fuck? Yeah, I don't know. I'm much about watches. Hertzer says Shedeur is awful. He will be playing in the CFL in a couple of years. Okay, we'll see. I mean, I don't think so, but we'll see. He could end up like the Johnny Manziel route. He could end up like that. He could end up Johnny Manziel and just go to the CFL. I don't remember, what team did Johnny Manziel play for? Was it Toronto? I don't remember. But yeah, I mean, it could happen. I'll never say never. Like I said, this is why Sunday's gonna help a lot of either side. It's either gonna help the pro Shedeur side or it's gonna help the anti-Shedeur side. So that's why I said we're finally gonna have some meaningful football analysis and something to actually talk about with Shedeur Sanders on Sunday and actually put some credence into regarding Shedeur Sanders and the conversation around Shedeur Sanders. Okay, let's get into the final segment of the day. Has the Who says Mendoza 2026 week 1? Maybe, but the Jets can also move up. Once again, guys, make sure you guys hit the like button, subscribe if you're new. If you guys have not hit the subscribe button already, thank you guys so much for coming out here on your Wednesday afternoon. All right, you guys ready to get to the final segment? Okay, it was Toronto, Hertzer? Okay. It was Toronto? I thought I was right. Was it Toronto Alouettes? Is that their name in the CFL? All right. Let's go on to the final segment, which is the media report surrounding Shedeur Sanders and Kevin Stefanski's plan for Shedeur Sanders. So, all the talk all season long has been, why hasn't Kevin Stefanski and the Browns given Shedeur Sanders first team reps? Why have the Browns not given Shedeur Sanders a fair shot like they gave Dylan Gabriel throughout the entire season with, first team reps and, giving him a fair shot to actually start for the Cleveland Browns, right? And we were told all offseason long that we were going to be given a 4-man quarterback competition between Kenny Pickett, Joe Flacco, Dylan Gabriel, and Shedeur Sanders. Well, then it quickly became apparent that the 4-man competition actually was a 3-man competition, and that Shedeur Sanders was the odd man left out because he never got any first-team reps, and he was summarily given, the poor man's, wide receivers had to be throwing the ball boys in practice, right? He had basically not been given a shot to start at all. And a lot of people have been trying to figure out why that is. Why wasn't Shedeur Sanders being given a fair opportunity for, to start for the Cleveland Browns? Well, a lot of people had theories. Many people said that Shedeur Sanders wasn't ready, and that's why they were, that's why Shedeur Sanders wasn't given a fair shot, that some people say he wasn't given a fair shot. I come out the opposite side of the argument and say that Shedeur Sanders actually was given the best shot out of anybody. Well, now we may have an answer, and this comes from Jason Lloyd over at The Athletic, and this article comes from Dog Pound Daily over on dogpounddaily.com. I don't know what the hell happened. Oh, sorry, guys. What the hell happened here? Here we go. This part comes from, we'll just cut that out. This part comes from Dog Pound Daily. The original article comes from The Athletic over with Jason Lloyd, but Jason Lloyd put out an article the other day giving us perhaps an answer to that question. Basically saying, immediately after the draft, Browns head coach Kevin Stefanski was telling members of Cleveland's organization that 2025 would be like a redshirt year for Sanders, meaning he would develop in the shadows without seeing the field. So, if this is the case, and Kevin Stefanski decided basically that Shedeur is going to develop at his own pace, and that we're going to keep him off to the side so that he can work on his game, and then maybe 2026 could be a year where he could potentially compete for the starting job. Well, that just makes a lot of sense. And this is what I was saying. Again, when a lot of people were saying that Shedeur was getting an unfair opportunity to start, I said he's getting the best opportunity, in my opinion, because he can develop at his own rate. He could develop at his own pace. And to me, this kind of confirms my analysis and my assumption is that Shedeur could develop at his own pace without seeing the field, and that he's going to get a shot next year. I said this. I've said this. I said this in a video. I said Shedeur Sanders has an opportunity to start in 2026. I think he could be the guy in 2026. I said this multiple times. I have a video about it on my channel. You guys can go back and look at my channel. But we'll go and look more into this article here. You guys can go, again, dogpounddaily.com. You guys can look this up here. You guys can go see the original article over at The Athletic. But let's get more into what Jason Lloyd had to say. While Lloyd's report is the first that alleges Stefanski actually used the redshirt terminology, the majority of the organization's actions and messaging surrounding Sanders points to that being the franchise's intention. Since the rookie quarterback arrived, he was always positioned in a way different from the other quarterbacks on the roster. From not really being involved in what was described as an open quarterback competition, to taking reps by himself on the opposite side of the field and throwing to equipment guys in drills, it didn't seem like the Browns intended for Sanders to play in 2025, at least not early. That sentiment was echoed by all of Stefanski's public quotes to the media, as he often deflected when it came to Sanders, focusing on the development of all young players instead. That was especially on display when Joe Flacco was traded and Stefanski was hesitant to name Sanders the backup quarterback. According to Lloyd, the head coach told members of the organization that Bailey Zappi would be QB2 for the Browns after Flacco was moved, but for whatever reason, Sanders was ultimately elevated. And this is what we're going to get into in just a minute, guys, because there seems to be some inner conflict with Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry regarding Shedeur Sanders and his role on this football team. But the article goes on. If the plan for Shedeur Sanders was to actually have an unofficial redshirt year this season, that brings even more questions to Cleveland's quarterback plans beyond this year. When the Browns selected 2 quarterbacks in the 2025 draft and secured 2 first-round picks in 26, the natural assumption was that the franchise would want to see if Gabriel or Sanders could be a long-term answer, or if Cleveland needed to take a first-round quarterback in 2026. And basically saying drafting Sanders with the intention to redshirt him makes it seem like taking a quarterback in 2026 wasn't initially on the table for the Browns. If a team is redshirting a rookie quarterback, it's typically because the franchise has long-term plans for the quarterback, not because they plan to move off the quarterback in a year without them ever taking a snap. Again, I said this in a previous video. You guys can go back on my channel with Shedeur Sanders could be the quarterback in 2026. This is what I said. This is basically confirming what I said, that Shedeur Sanders is getting the opportunity to develop at his own pace for him to be able to compete for the starting role in 2026. And again, this is what they said. Maybe Shedeur Sanders is the bridge quarterback for next year, and then in 2027 they go get their guy. That's, to me, this is confirming what I've been thinking about the entire time and what I've been saying on this channel for a long time. But again, the organization, this one is interesting right here. This is what I want to talk about. Clearly, the article goes on to say, clearly, some within the franchise wanted to draft Sanders and some didn't. Some people in the organization wanted to see the rookie on the field this season and others did not. And again, the Browns weren't even aligned on the decision to make Sanders the quarterback too. So this part here, this last sentence here, the Browns weren't even aligned on the decision to make Sanders quarterback too. Well, we know that according to Jason Lloyd, Kevin Stefanski wanted Bailey Zappi to be the backup quarterback. So then, if Stefanski wanted Bailey Zappi as the quarterback or as the backup quarterback, but other people inside the organization wanted Shedeur to be the backup quarterback, well then, who wanted Shedeur to be the backup quarterback, and who forced Kevin Stefanski to start or to have Sanders be the backup quarterback? Was it Andrew Berry? Was it Jimmy Haslam? Who was the one that forced Kevin to put Shedeur as the backup? This is an interesting question because again, I've been saying this all the time too. A lot of the stuff I've been saying, it turns out to be real true. I've been saying there seems to be some friction inside the Browns organization. This is what it sounds like, that Kevin Stefanski wants Dillon Gabriel to work out because Kevin is getting some heat from upstairs regarding his job security, and mainly because of his decision to take Dillon Gabriel. And when we've seen Dillon Gabriel play football, it doesn't necessarily turn out well, guys, does it? And that is why they're forcing Dillon Gabriel to keep playing, even though we've seen Dillon Gabriel struggle and not necessarily look better week over week. He's actually looked worse as the weeks have gone on. This makes a lot of sense. It to me, it's either Andrew Berry or Jimmy Haslam. Those are the only two people that have the power over Kevin Stefanski to make him put Shedeur as the backup quarterback to Dillon Gabriel. Those are the only two people. So again, this shows to me that there is some inner struggle with the Cleveland Browns. There's some struggle going on within the organization with Shedeur Sanders getting more reps, with how either Andrew Berry views Shedeur or whether Jimmy Haslam views Shedeur. Someone views Shedeur Sanders more favorably. Out of those two guys, they view him more favorably than Kevin does. They just do. And again, I've said this. Kevin needs Dillon Gabriel to start so that Kevin's job security is more strong. I've said this multiple times, guys. And to me, this article that I just read, the article basically lays that out. And it also shows you that this whole collaborative partnership that we've seen and what we've heard about with Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry and Jimmy Haslam, about how everyone's in lockstep with each other, doesn't necessarily look true at this moment, right? So again, there's a lot of cracks that have been shown recently with the Browns, and there's been a lot more leaks coming out, especially. There's a lot more leaks coming out about the Browns and their inner workings, right? To me, this is like a really big story, because if this is true and the Browns wanted a redshirt Shedeur, Kevin views Shedeur as a developmental quarterback, which is fine. I said this multiple times, which is fine. I think he's getting a good deal from Kevin by improving at his own rate and by not playing. I said Dillon Gabriel is being thrown into the fire. Dillon Gabriel is getting the raw end of the deal. Shedeur Sanders is staying inside, working on his craft. Shedeur Sanders is getting a good deal right now. So if this is the case and Kevin does not view Shedeur Sanders as highly as Andrew Berry or Jimmy Haslam does, well then who decided to go over Kevin Stefanski's head and tell Kevin, you're going to make Shedeur the backup quarterback? We don't want to see Bailey Zappi. We have to see what Shedeur Sanders has. And if you guys remember, Jimmy Haslam, before the season started, said, we're going to see both rookie quarterbacks. We want to see what both rookie quarterbacks have to offer the team. We want to see them both. So did Jimmy tell Kevin, hey, put Shedeur as the backup because we have to see what these rookies can do? We have to see both Dillon and Shedeur. Did Andrew Berry do that? Because by all accounts, we know that Kevin liked Dillon Gabriel, and then that's been confirmed, but we know that there's some rumors that Andrew Berry liked Shedeur Sanders. So is this a Kevin versus Andrew struggle, or is this a Jimmy Haslam being the, ever-involved owner problem? We don't know. But what this does show, but what we do know, is that the Browns are not in lockstep with one another. Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry, or Kevin Stefanski and Jimmy Haslam, whichever one, they're not in lockstep with each other. And this is a first, and this is a very interesting development from what we have been told about this whole regime for the last 6 years. But it's finally good. It's good to finally have some answers, and it's good to have my analysis and my reporting and my opinions validated. Okay? So, very interesting to see what's going to happen here on out going forward with Shedeur Sanders and with Dillon Gabriel. I'm very interested to see how this all turns out. I'm sure as we go on, as the season goes on and into the offseason, we'll learn a lot more about how the Browns have been approaching the Shedeur Sanders, Dillon Gabriel saga. And maybe we figure out who told Kevin to make Shedeur the backup quarterback. Was it Andrew? Was it Jimmy? Hopefully we'll find out later on this season. But anyway, those are the 3 segments I wanted to get to today. Let's see what your guys' chats are. Corey World, why would you want Sanders to start anyways? He sucks badly. Again, I'm not going to make my assumptions off of one half of a football game. I'm going to see what he does Sunday against the Raiders. Why can't you admit Sanders sucks? I'm not going to admit that he's bad or good. I don't know. Like I said, I did my whole media segment. The last segment I did was about Shedeur Sanders and the media. I said, you don't have to say he sucks. You don't have to say he's amazing. We don't know yet. I want to see what he does on the football field. I said he didn't play good on Sunday against the Ravens. He didn't play good on Sunday against the Ravens. Even Shedeur Sanders said he didn't play good Sunday against the Ravens, okay? But I want to give the guy a shot against the Raiders, give him a full game before I make an actual assumption, okay? He wasn't good. Corey World, again, he wouldn't have been the Colorado quarterback if his daddy didn't drag him there. I mean, he had a lot of different offers from a lot of different schools. So, again, that point is just mute. I mean, that point is just mute. He had a lot of different offers from a lot of different schools. So, again, it's not a point. That point is refuted. So, okay, guys. If there's any other comments you guys want to put in the chat or questions you want to put in the chat, let me know. If not, we'll get out of here. Make sure you guys hit the like button, subscribe if you're new. I appreciate all your guys' support. Recently, you guys have been killing it with the views and the subscribers and the likes. Everything has been great. You guys have been absolutely amazing. Make sure you guys follow me on X at Warmed Bench. Follow me on TikTok at benchwarmersports_. You guys have been absolutely killing it lately with the support. I really appreciate it. And we'll be seeing you guys Friday for Coming Off the Bench. We'll be previewing the Browns-Raiders game. And we'll be talking about other Browns topics. Make sure you guys are staying tuned for that. Hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notification so you guys are notified. And I'll see you guys all